Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Let's get into it. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors is a 1987 film starring Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, and Patricia Arquette, and is directed by Chuck Russell. A psychiatrist familiar with knife-wielding dream demon Freddy Krueger helps teens at a mental hospital battle the killer who is invading their dreams. So, despite being a financial success, Freddy's Revenge was a critical flop, so New Line decided they needed to do an overhaul. So they ended up bringing back Wes Craven as part of the creative force. He didn't stay to direct it, but he did write the initial script for the film, which is why it's one of the better sequels, hands down. But is it the best sequel? Some people would say it's even better than the first. I personally don't agree with either of those things, but I can see why some people might draw that conclusion. There are elements to this film that I could see making it better than the first to certain people, depending on their taste and what they're looking for in a horror movie. I'm just not one of those people. However, I do like this movie, so starting off with the positives. The first thing I think you have to give this movie credit for is assembling the perfect cast. I mean, not one single person in this film feels out of place, and everyone fits their role like a glove. We have a young Lawrence Fishburne and Patricia Arquette before they were even household names. You could see the potential of both of them here, especially Patricia Arquette. She was easily the second best final girl in this franchise, next to Heather Langenkamp, of course. I also really enjoy the Dream Avengers approach they take here. It's actually a lot of fun. It's sort of like X-Men meets Freddy Krueger. It was kind of a superhero comic book style movie blended with horror before superhero movies were even a hit in Hollywood, so I'm really surprised this movie worked as well as it did with audiences at that time. And the next thing I like is that they brought Nancy back. She wasn't quite a legacy character yet because the first movie really wasn't old enough for that, but I think the studio did recognize her positive impact on the franchise and figured bringing her back could possibly pull in a lot of people that checked out after Freddy's Revenge. And I would say they were probably right based on the positive response this movie got, of course. And speaking of Heather Langenkamp, what a great comeback. They give her character a very good continuation from the first film. It feels very organic to the character, and you definitely believe this is where that character could end up in life. This movie is the perfect template on how to effectively kill off a beloved character in a respectful and impactful way. And of course, if it's opposite day and you want a perfect template on how not to kill off a beloved character and piss off fans, then stay tuned for my review of the next movie. And my final positive, which honestly is more of a mixed opinion, and you'll see why later in the video, is the way they handled the comedy in this film. I believe it technically had a better balance of funny Freddy and dark Freddy than any other sequel in this franchise. But this movie does get put on a pedestal by most fans, and anytime a movie gets held in such high regard, I can't help but be a little apprehensive toward it and go over it with a fine-tooth comb and magnifying glass. And unfortunately, I do have some problems with this movie, which I'm getting into now. So, I'm the type of person who likes Freddy to be dark and maintain that dark edge at all times, no exceptions. I don't ever want him fully exposed either. I also want his physical presence to be very sparing. I feel like what made that first film so great and so scary was That idea that you know the storm is coming, but you never know when lightning will strike. You keep your villain in the shadows and you utilize him very precisely and deliberately. Jaws and Halloween and the original Nightmare on Elm Street are the three best examples that come to my mind of this. You felt their presence all throughout the entire movie because of how they were utilized, but their actual on-screen presence was very limited. They just did a good job in between those scenes of keeping you in suspense. That way, when he does show up, the payoff is that much more impactful because you never know when to expect him or what to expect from him. The second movie, Freddy's Revenge, teetered on that line of exposing Freddy way too much, but what that movie did get right was Freddy himself when he was on screen, regardless of how much he was on screen. I loved Freddy in that movie, but this movie held no punches. Freddy was peppered all in this movie. They were not sparing with it at all, which is fine for some people. I'm not saying that's objectively wrong. That's just not the way I personally want to see any slasher villain utilized. I think it waters them down. Plus, if you're going to give someone that much screen presence, you have to add a little more personality to their character because ominous silence and in the shadows no longer works. Otherwise, the audience will get bored with the character, which moves me into my next beef with this movie, honestly, and that's the comedic element this movie introduced with the character of Freddy. It may not be the movie where Freddy went full-blown cartoon, but it is definitely the movie that cracked open that door, and this is where they started leaning more into one-liner Freddy.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
I always blame this movie for the direction that the later sequels took, even if it doesn't necessarily deserve it. But like I said earlier, it was technically balanced and executed better than any of the other films, so if that's what you're looking for in a Freddy movie, then look no further. This is your perfect film, and you will not only like it, but you may even like it better than the original. Like I said, I don't, but I also could see why some people would. But if you're like me and you want a scary Freddy through and through, you'll probably feel the same way I do, which is that it is one of the better sequels. So for a rating, I'll give this movie a solid 8. And as for a recommendation, if you're not on board with the Looney Tune Freddy from the later sequels, but want more out of Freddy than what the original gave us, or you're just simply a Freddy fan and don't care how he's portrayed, then I recommend this movie. But if you want your Freddy dark and with no camp, then this movie may not be for you. Nobody knows your taste in movies better than you. But that's it for this video, guys. Tell me what you think down in the comments section or find me on one of my socials, which are linked in the video descriptions of all my videos. Also, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. In the meantime, like and share this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.